Welcome everyone to this, our regular open council meeting of today, November 4th. That's always my test. I believe we have we have Councillor Hambrick online and we are expecting Councillor Dale shortly. Let everybody know that a live audio video feed is being broadcast and recorded via Zoom and is available on the Town of Golden YouTube page. I'd like to note that for thousands of years, the abundance that the earth's lands, waters provided us to live, work, and play is due to the ecological wisdom, stewardship, and reciprocal relationship that the world's first peoples lived and live today. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the shared ancestral, traditional, and unceded territory of the Ktunaxa and Secwepemc people. Golden is also home to the Métis Nation, Columbia River Society, and other diverse Indigenous heritage. We're grateful to have the opportunity to live, work, and play in this territory. Ms. Seville, I see we have one late item. Is there any other late items?
There are no other late items.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion that we include the late item onto this agenda. Councillor Routley, Councillor Wheel. Any discussion? And if this is approved, it would be under new business. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Carried unanimously. We'll move on to item 3, which is the adoption of the meeting agenda as modified. Looking for a mover of that. Councillor Routley, second Councillor Manuel. Sore neck doing this. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. In council, we have the adoption of the minutes of the last regular open council meeting, which was held October 21st. Looking for a mover of those minutes. Councillor Guillo, seconder Councillor Routley. Council, any errors or omissions in those minutes? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. In council, is there any business arising from those minutes that we are not going to be dealing with on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to delegations and presentations. First, I guess we have WildSafe BC Representative Jenny. Welcome. It's already been another year, my goodness.
Good.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone for having me. Thank you, Carrie, for setting this up. So yeah, I'm Jenny. It's my 3rd year as the WildSafe BC coordinator for the Golden area and the CSRDA. So yeah, today we'll just talk about what I've done so far this season. I will be finishing up in just a few weeks. Accomplishments, and then as always, just kind of opportunities and things to move forward with for next season. So yeah, to start, just for anyone that might not remember, or for guests that might be new here, just a quick introduction of the program, the location we cover, the highlights from this season, including wildlife activity, the WildSafe Ranger program, display booth, spin tagging, social media, collaborations, and then, like I mentioned, opportunities for next year. Yeah. And so WildSafe BC, we are under the British Columbia Conservation Foundation, and so we're a branch off of them. And so our main goal is to reduce human-wildlife conflict through collaboration, education, and community solutions. So all of those things I'll be going over are essentially just ways we can educate and work with and collaborate with the community, so that we can be better at coexisting with wildlife and preventing human-wildlife conflict. And so we can be, as long as we have the staff and funding available, we can be in over 100 different communities throughout BC, which is pretty incredible. And so these are just some examples of where we can be found. Yeah. And so again, for Golden, my coverage is mainly Golden, but we also cover the CSRDA, so to field, and then down towards Parson and Spilly, and then up towards Donald as well. And so for wildlife activity, so you can see we don't have the reports yet from 2025. They typically do them until October 31st. And then as a result as well, due to the strike, there will be a bit of a delay in receiving them. I reached out well in advance just to make sure, but hopefully they will be in our final report, which will come out sometime in January or February in the new year. But you could see we received the report last year. And so that I've included for this year. So this is just black bear reports to the COS over a 5-year period in the Golden area. The reason for that is on an annual basis, about the COS receives about 25,000 calls regarding wildlife throughout BC. The majority of those, over about 75%, are black bears coming into the community. And so you can see this trend in Golden from 2020 to 2024. It seems to fluctuate, have a decrease and then an increase with bears coming into town. Again, I can't say for certain what the results will look like for 2025. But if you kind of look at the past results, you would assume there would be an increase this year. But speaking to the public, speaking to the COS, Dan, before he went on strike, and in addition, I spoke to a park warden for Parks Canada. They all said it's been a really quiet year, which has been pretty incredible. Really, really quiet. Our best guess, aside from obviously the community doing a great job, it's been an incredible berry crop year. And the last thing bears want to do is be near people. So in addition to them having lots of food out in the wild, in their natural space, we can also just say every year people are learning, people are engaging, getting a bit better. Because if we did have just trash laying everywhere, you would most likely get the odd bear in town. But yeah, it's been really, really quiet. So our best guess is you'll see probably even a larger decrease than 2024, which is amazing. But yeah, those final results will hopefully be in the 2025 report. Yeah, and so another thing we do is the Wild Safe Ranger program. So that's where we'll go to camps, we'll go to, daycare programs, other programs, and then we'll go into schools. And our main goal is to introduce the concept of human wildlife conflict. We'll talk about attractants, we'll talk about attractant management. The biggest thing I really drive into the kids is obviously to do our part at managing our attractants, because that's the best way to reduce human wildlife conflict. The number one reason bears typically become conditioned and become a problem is due to if people leave their trash out and don't secure that, in addition to our fruit trees as well. So we really talk about that. So those are just some photos. So yeah, I delivered 2 in the summer, and I delivered 5 presentations so far this fall. Some of those classes were also combined as well. So overall, I think I had just under about 200 kids that I reached, which was pretty great. A lot of them have seen me before, whether it was at the summer camp or in previous years, but I think it's a great thing because every year I find they just have more questions, and the older they get, the more, the more they're willing to learn and the more they can understand. So yeah, I thought it was pretty incredible. And yeah, they're all excited. If you see in the bottom left corner, they get a nice little educational kit to take home. So even if they weren't listening, they can work on it at home with their family. And yeah, I always try to ask them one question at the end so that they can tell someone at home, because you may not have a kindergarten, a little 5-year-old taking the trash out the morning of collection day, but they can remind their parents to do that and otherwise keep those bins clipped and abide by our bylaws. So something else we do are bear spray demonstrations and safety presentations. So for the 3rd year in a row, I was able to participate and collaborate with Wild Sight Golden, where we had the Golden Bear Festival. And so I did a bear spray demonstration there where we talked a bit about bear safety, and then we talked about bear spray safety, first aid, when to use it, and then followed by that demonstration where I also brought additional inert cans for the public to use. In addition to that, if anyone remembers last year, the suggestion to go to the high school, I did reach out to them. I did 2 wildlife safety and awareness presentations there at the high school, 3 classes total because 1 combined. So total, I reached about 100 people through these presentations and demonstrations, which is significantly higher than last year. And it was really great, again, with the high school students as well, just to talk about what to do if you encounter wildlife. We still touched on human wildlife conflict and attractant management, but they're at that age where they're going to be hiking alone, and so to have that confidence and to understand when to use bear spray, um, and so on. So yeah. And so for display booth, that's also a key part of my role here in Golden. So similar to last year, I reached about 1,200 people. I had 12 display booths. Typically, it's from May until September. I was at the farmers market every other Wednesday. I was at the Sky Bridge. I had a booth also at Golden's Bear Festival. And so that's a great way to engage not only with the public, but with tourists coming in as well. Um, and so, yeah, we were all throughout town, and we had loads of educational materials for the public to take as well. Yeah. And so for bin tagging, so similar to previous years, I've gone out bin tagging, which is essentially just where we place an educational sticker to warn people. Clearly, they've set their bins out the night before collection day, to give them that educational warning, and to remind them on every single sticker. I'll write our bylaw, which is to only put the bins out the morning of collection day between 5 to 8 a.m., and to contact me if they have any further questions. And so similar to previous years, I did 12 outings. I had about 112 bins tagged that received that warning sticker. Of those, only about 11 to 12%, so about 13 tags were handed out more than once during all 12 outings. 3 received an additional tag, but out of those 3, 2 actually didn't have their bins out the entire fall period when I went out. So it's just kind of proving technically less than 1% after that additional warning had their bins out. So it really, really is effective. So nearly, almost 90%, you could say, only had that initial warning and then proceeded to abide by our bylaws. And so that's just kind of a chart kind of showing the results. So you can see in the spring, in the blue, it's kind of actually fairly even between those outings. In comparison to in the fall, you can actually see like a significant reduction at the end. The same thing for repeat offenders. You kind of saw, if anything, a slight increase in the spring, but you saw it significantly decrease in the fall. So just showing, just a simple sticker, writing our bylaws, and writing that can be really effective. Yeah. And so for social media, we're now at 690 followers, so a little bit of a jump. I do try to post at least 2 to 3 times a week, talking about, fruit cleaning, managing attractants, wildlife safety, giving the town of Golden's really great at it as well, giving updates about our bylaws and bin tagging and what to do. And so we just hope for that to continue to grow, to reach, even people outside of our community as well. Again, in terms of collaboration, so like I briefly mentioned, we worked with Wildsight Golden this year to do that, to participate in Golden's Bear Festival and do that bear spray demonstration and presentation, and just making sure we had an effort to be there. And then just continuing, I really spoke to Carla as well from the farmers market, just to continue that collaboration in regards to managing our fruit trees and managing those attractants and delivering options for that as well. So a lot of times people would come to my booth asking what to do. I would redirect them to her. We could offer the food bank if they were good apples. And then sometimes I would offer as well, if they maybe weren't perfect for people, they could deliver them to the ski hill to Boo. which was great as well. So just taking that attractant away from the community and of course, still repurposing it. Yeah. And then so opportunities for next year, even though it's been a really quiet year this year, just throughout all of BC, garbage and poorly maintained fruit trees continue to be the most reported attractant. In addition to that, of course, there's always going to be a tree that might not be picked, or a bin that's unclipped and out the night before. And so further initiatives to consider for next year is just to continue to conduct those educational campaigns focused on the hazards of attractants, along with solutions to securing these. So social media, news articles, and again, presentations, whether it be to adults or for children, I think are really effective. Continuing to encourage residents to connect through social media with WildSafe BC and local nonprofit food sharing groups in an effort to minimize those attractants in town. Continuing to do garbage bin tagging during those seasonal peaks, so in the spring and the fall, when human wildlife conflict is typically at its highest. And it does, we can see, work well in changing human behavior and just reminding those residents and new residents as well of our local bylaws, and then continuing to support Golden to become a Bear Smart community. And yeah, so thank you everyone for listening. And then yeah, our sponsors, so Town of Golden, Columbia Basin Trust, and the BCCF. Thank you. If anyone has questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Council, any questions for Jenny? Comments? Could you speak a little bit more about the wild safe rangers?
Yeah, like so for the children.
Yeah, so what's the age group?
So typically for the kids, it's 6 to 10. But I would say sometimes we'll get kids as young as 4 to 5. And then up until grade 7, so about 12 years old. So when I was in the high school, that was from grade 8. So I would say 13-year-olds to about 16, 17-year-olds for that, more so that wildlife safety and awareness presentation. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Councillor Hambrick?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Yeah, okay. I'm just wondering if, I'm president of the seniors. I'm just wondering if you would be interested in presenting to the seniors about, gleaning fruit, particularly in the fall. If they're, good, a lot of them, some of them may not be in a position to be able to glean their own fruit, but if they have a contact to a presentation from you, it may help.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you want to get in touch with me, towards the end of summer next year.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. No, that'd be awesome. I love talking.
Sounds good, Councillor Hambrick. That really does present another step towards removing those attractants from our community.
Yeah.
Councillor Manuel?
Just wondering if any of the fruit which is gleaned goes to local farmers at all.
So some of them, yeah. So if the food bank doesn't take them, a great option as well is that, yeah, local farmers and, who have livestock, they can get those fruits as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. In a couple more weeks and then done for the season.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you for letting
Thank you. Okay, council, so now we have a second presentation, which is Bracely and Larry Sparks presented on the Confluence Initiative. So staff have switched up the so Larry, I saw you get up and then stay sit.
Lifelong project.
I'm in a support role.
Okay, welcome, Brace.
Thanks for having me today. So we wanted to provide you guys with a quick update on what we've been up to as the Canada Confluence Initiative. Larry and I have been making progress and wanting to kind of get in a position we could sort of give you guys a formal update and some requests, not for too much, but for a lot of support that we could see going a long ways in making this effort go further. So just to summarize, so the Canyon Confluence is a vision of a community connected to its rivers, right? So we live at the confluence of the Kicking Horse and Columbia Rivers, which are two heritage rivers, the country of Canada. And we are very fortunate to live here, and we want to recognize that as part of as Golden's heritage, as well as its future prospects will involve those rivers going forward. So a part of that vision is to make that more accessible to people, having more accessible spaces near the river, and improve infrastructure that will still function for flood control, but also serve multi-purposes, whether for recreation or for habitat environment. So those are the aspects we're looking at improving. So 2 years ago, we gave a presentation and we sort of charted this path forward. And so we've started down this path, and we'll be updating where we got to and what our plans are for the future. But the first thing we wanted to do was take a look at the assets in the river corridor and ask the community what they wanted, right? So part of that process was gaining communications tools together, a website, have a sort of a launch to the public to sort of say, here's where we are, what we're up to. And sort of that was basically year of our last progress. So I'll talk about that in a bit here. The second phase was, we need to make a plan, right? So now we got some ideas what to do. How do we put those ideas into a formalized plan? So working on that. And another sort of our third phase, which was going to be sort of after the plan, has come sort of forward because people really want this Centennial Park, Riverfront Park to move forward. And because it's tangible, people see it, they want to kind of see it happen quicker, and you can get a lot more funding for tangible things than you get for a plan. So we kind of have phase 2 and 3 competing at the same time. Okay. And 4 and 5 are in the future. We have not discussed that we're going to get there in the near term. So I'm going to talk about 2 and 3 and also summarize phase 1. Okay. So in our phase 1, as I said, we had established a website. We also had a river community day, which was hosted at Confluence Park. It was a great fall day last October, more than a year ago. And I'm very fortunate to have some of the counselors join us that day, as well as other counselors from Ktunaxa Nation. And it was a great day to sort of raise awareness more so. And so that was our sort of launch. And we had a community survey that was also part of that. And so as sort of that survey, we got some respondents to that survey and formed sort of a what we heard report out of that survey. But as you can see, we kind of launched quickly, had a video release, had this sort of website just spike up. And so the top line is like website and media, but the bottom line is like talking to people on the ground. And so that's really where we've kind of got a lot of support, is just talking to people, whether that's at a farmer's market, at the fall fair. We had a Golden Secondary School River Day, where we hosted a couple of different stations at the high school as part of last day of classes to raise awareness about river corridors. We had a fish biologist in Parks Canada there. And we had, I've seen this, it's like a river table. And so we took a trailer, filled it full of sand, tilted it, and poured a river down 2 sides of it. And so kids can interact and like make their own rivers on the fly. So it was a pretty cool day. We had some good encouragement from the teachers on how they could teach river morphology through that process. So we had a good update from the teachers, and we're planning another day like that in the spring with their support. So I think we've sort of rounded enough people and talked to people in the community who can say that people are supportive of the idea. And what Larry and I realized is that it was no longer us telling them about the idea. It was like they were saying, of course, why wouldn't we not do this? So that sort of has come after a year of talking about it. People are like, this is a path we should take. Okay. Any questions about this? No. Right. So as part of that survey we conducted, Urban Systems was contracted to produce a report. And so through that report, they identified 3 major sort of themes from that feedback. And they were improved accessibility, recreation, and ecology and nature habitat. And so those 3 pillars that I could have talked about as our vision were then mirrored in our engagement. So I think our vision still is aligned with the community, and we want to make sure that supports that going forward. But so now what are you going to do? So let's get a question. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So, so the reason we did that engagement was not just because, to check a box. It was for people's input to the project to have buy-in, right? And that buy-in is important because we're gonna make some big changes if we really get that buy-in, right? And that's gonna look like where we're gonna have access at the river corridor, what facilities will be available, and how we're gonna fund it, right? So phase 2 is this river restoration access planning, and this is going to tie to a grant opportunity that's come to light yesterday. So a big opportunity came through, and we're going to position ourselves for that grant. And when I say ourselves, it involves the town of Golden because they have to apply. So we'll talk about that some more, but there's a big grant coming, and we'll talk about how this sort of river access and waterfront planning can be part of that. Okay. And phase 3, this is Centennial Riverfront Park, which is basically in Preston Bridge and Oso building. We've also received funding for this project already, and that's through the Resort Municipality Initiative. And they're contributing funds for planning as well as construction of this project in the next 2 to 3 years. And so Larry and I don't intend to do all these projects, just to be clear. We're kind of bringing people to the table to talk about the projects and plan who is in a position to lead them, be champions for those projects. And so in doing that process, Rotary Club came to us and said, we would like to be the champion to take this project on, as they have a Rotary Trail. This bisects that trail. And so to take them as the champion and support them through that process is kind of our goal. And we want to make sure that we get alignment for the town, that they can also feel that's an appropriate champion for this project. Okay. Any questions on this piece so far? Yeah, question.
Council Manuel?
I don't know a lot on this, but
Mhm.
it seems like where the Centennial Park is, we're talking about taking the dike out from where it is now and moving it inland.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming that there are, bad thing to do, that there are provincial standards and inspections on dikes, and that you would know, you guys would know who to contact for that. And would you be going into the river at all?
Right. So the process for this park design is we're gonna have a consultant make some designs and have community engaged on those designs before we start doing things for permitting, right? So we're gonna make sure we have a design that community wants and is supportive of and fits within the budget constraints that we have, right? So that'll be the next year, is getting that design together and or applying for funding for that design work as well. And then we would have a design, we could say, okay, because the dike engineers aren't going to have much to say until say this is the actual change we want to make, right? So until we have a more detailed design, we don't really have a say of are we going in the river or not, because it is a bigger permit process to go into the river than to just modify the dike alignment, as you understand, John.
Yeah, sorry, just to follow up, yes. Well, first, I mean, yeah, we need to know that, of course, the dikes are built appropriately and legally and all requirements. Also, going into the river, we know that it's a fish-bearing stream, and it can take a considerable period of time to get a permission.
Yeah.
Challenges.
Await. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Grill.
Hi, Bryce. Thank you for so far what I'm hearing. I have a couple of questions. One is, you say you have the Resort Municipality Initiative funding. So you do have that $630, 630,000? Okay, great. And is GSED still involved in this
Yeah.
project?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And what are they doing? Like-
They own the C2CI. They're the owner of our initiative, basically.
Okay,
And so they would receive those funds, and they're a nonprofit that.
so the annual budget that's coming through for EOF for the $25,000, is that going out of their budget, or are you getting it separate?
Right, so the $25,000 for EOF, that comes to Larry and I to pursue this project.
Is it going through
GSED.
GSED?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
And the Rotary is wanting to take this on.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's quite a large undertaking.
It's always easy to take on a project when somebody else already got the funding in place. Kudos to the group.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Anything else, counselors? Okay, Grace.
Okay, this working? Oh yeah, this is that funding, just so like, I think the questions you're asking are put up here, right? So our funding from the EOF comes into GSED, and then that goes to fund the project. And then this RMI funding is for Centennial Park upgrade as laid out there. And then, there's a past grant that we were successful at was this Community Future East Cooney, and that was to help with our community engagement last year. So these are grants we've already received funding for, but the 630,000 is a big step from 25 to, it's like, okay, now we got to do something, right? So that's why we're here, because we need you guys to say, okay, is this the right path? It's a big decision to make on how we allocate these funds and your concerns, like if Rotary Club is the person to, or the group to champion it, are they supported enough to have the right capacity to take on that project, right? So, okay, so that's our
Councilor Manuel question?
Just another question, yeah. You're talking about or looking at a whitewater thing in course, and I guess closer to the bridge, between the two bridges.
right. That was a previous design from about 15 years ago.
With something like that, because we do have debris coming down the river and that,
Right.
would it require maintenance or
Right.
work on it from time to time to?
Yeah. So we've asked this question, and we had that previous design that you've seen, and we took that to some hydrologists and said, is this a feasible plan still? And they said, probably not. They've learned a lot over those decades or so and said, you probably don't have enough width there to then constrain even further. Your dikes have been built to a certain size, and then you have the flood wall there as well. And that's all designed with nothing being placed inside of it, right? So to place more material inside that would increase your flood risk and not be advisable. So we're taking that idea off the table for now because it doesn't seem a good choice of our efforts. Because we are here to listen to science and make decisions based on facts. So that sounds like a reasonable approach.
Shift and adapt.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Okay. Great. All right. So we have some funding, and now we're talking about how to get more funding, because the best way to get funding is to have funding and then leverage that funding to get additional funds. So that puts us in a really good position because we have, obviously people like to match grants and stuff. When you come to the table with money, you can get more money. And so we've got about 4 or 5 grants we're applying for. And we'll talk about the swimming fish after this, but Rita being one of them, we actually talked to them this year to see if we would apply, and they said you guys are kind of still not far enough along in your kind of support from Tourism Golden, Town of Golden. You'd apply probably, but you'd probably be successful. It was our take on the feedback. And so there's a few things we want to do to get better for next year, which includes, being more integrated into the Tourism Golden's planning, integrated into the official community plan, and those sorts of things. So it was more aligned in terms of all those pieces are at the same pace. And we've been talking to CBT, and CBT is really interested in this project because they see a lot of alignment with their own goals and river access and ecology and habitat. So basically they said to me, go get a letter from town council that they approve your project and we'll get you some money. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to get a resolution that says we, the town of Golden, approves C2CI Rotary Club to apply for funding for Centennial Park upgrades. So that's one of our requests that we'll be making at the end of this presentation. And what else did you cover, Barry?
You're doing great.
Okay, good. So let's talk about the swim drink fish, and that was announced yesterday. And the reason I know about it is because Jordan Petrovics, your excellent recreation director, was on top of the communication planning for that. And it's a waterfront recreation grant is basically for BC communities, has to be applied for by a municipality, which is a requirement. And it's basically eligible, you need to show community support, you need to be aligned with and so consulting with First Nations. And the potential funding is $3 to $15 million at 20% share from the, you bring in 20%, they'll match 80% of it. So with $600,000, that puts us at $3 million total budget cost for that application. So that's a big enough grant that we think that's its own resolution to be requested for, and that application goes in. Deadline is January 9th. So it just got announced. We have 2 months to kind of position ourselves for that, and we can support the town of Golden to do the application. And we looked at it already, and it's not a very lengthy application. I think it's about 8 200-word answers to several questions. So we're happy to help support that as you guys look at that option.
Sounds exciting.
Sounds like we could take a chance and put in the application. We'll learn more what they're looking for. There's only 5 grants available, but we're like in a position. We came through enough steps to get here. Let's keep moving and see where it gets us.
I'll go to the next slide.
I think this is our ask, right? So
So I'll go to Councilor Guil.
So we did make a resolution last time, and part of that resolution was Kicking Horse River and restore natural habitat within the shore while remaining safe and ecologically sustainable and maintaining existing infrastructure and services. That's from our resolution that we made when you came last time. Now, is this maintaining existing infrastructure, and will this increase service demand on the municipality?
Sure. These are good questions.
Tracy able to respond, or?
I mean, the question about the function of the infrastructure, like if your dike infrastructure should function the same, right? Those changes should always keep flood mitigation at the same level. That's a standard we would like to achieve with these projects. And right, the service delivery would be an additional cost, as you want to design structures that aren't going to cost maintenance every year, right? So when we're talking about landscape architecture, you want to design structures that aren't going to be high maintenance, that will be, natural materials and less sort of ongoing maintenance as they sort of, but as any park costs the town funds, right? Every garbage bin costs the town money, right? So those are costs that will be included in kind of the forward looking of those plans. As we design a park, what's the ongoing cost? We should have that into our plan so that the town's clear on what the cost will be going forward,
That's really important.
right?
Thank you. Any follow-up?
No, I just think that's a really important component because, a little bit here, a little bit there, it costs a taxpayer, right? So.
So it's to have the information up front and to be aware.
Right.
Councilor Cooper?
Well, that was exactly kind of what my question was leading to, is the contributed asset, what's it gonna cost the town? Because yes, might just be some benches and a garbage can, but someone has to empty them. Is there any plan of society or being given over to a society that will maintain it, or is the expectation the town maintains it? And would there be funds for a contributed asset? Because whatever gets broken or town then has to pay to improve and fix what happens. So is that included in the whole budgeting process, that asset management piece? And
That's good feedback,
that, because that is what costs the town a lot over contributed assets over an amount of time. And then my other question was about the diking, making sure that it is safe and, there's experts that know that stuff, but ensuring that, because it is also, if people have access to the river, if someone's going down, what is our liability of a town if there's a accident or a tragedy on the river that we have given access to? So that's always a concern as well.
Thank you. Sorry, George. Mr. Petrovic?
So just chiming in, because this was a presentation that was brought forward by staff, and just for council's awareness that as a director's team, we did kind of huddle on this initiative a couple months ago, and I was stepped into being the director as kind of the liaison for this project from the municipality standpoint. So a lot of the questions from Councillor Gill, from Councillor Cooper around asset management plans, costing, those aspects of budgets are high on the radar as we work with this group to bring those numbers forward in future reports as this project gains ground. So yeah, like many of our other projects that have been grant based, you know, the financialist section will include details on operating impacts and obviously asset renewal based stuff. From anything from the diking perspective, any of the work that this group would do would be working very closely with our director of operations and going through the diking authority channels before any formal plans and you know budgets are presented on alteration of the diking walls. So at a staff level, we're well aware of the work that's happening here and collecting the buzzwords that come in on this project to make sure that we're bringing forward that information.
Thank you for that, Ms. Petrix. And from my perspective, that was my expectation by virtue of being aware of financial obligations, long-term commitments. I'm assuming from that, and I look to Mr. Dendegar as far as having staff capacity, what else might fall off the table? And then following up that with, have you guys had conversations with First Nations and where's that component at? Because that is critically important.
Right. So our resolution from town council, I think there was some worry around town being involved in those communications. I think there's a opportunity for that to continue to be the case. So our current situation is we have communicated with them on our what we heard reports and provide them to those First Nations groups to see if they had any feedback. We actually were surprised we got feedback. And so we actually paused and said, okay, what's the feedback? How do we address it? And so that was a sign that we struck a chord somewhere and they want to be involved and we should take the opportunity to include them on our work. And so that's a real opportunity for Town Golden to be in a position of having that communication channels open. And so I encourage you guys to be involved with that as we go forward.
That's an excellent opportunity. That's for darn sure. Okay, I'm just on the slide deck here. So this is the ask of council to pass a resolution to allow the group to be positioned to apply for the grants, multiple grants, I'm understanding, and
Right.
the newest one being the
Swim Drink Fresh
Swim-
it's actually called the WAVE grant. So you better catch it. It's going to fly past in 2 months.
And so that was the other question as far as that's a very short time frame, and I do agree that there's 2 years of preliminary work that has already happened. If in fact this granting opportunity came and you weren't at the stage you are at now, there's probably no likelihood whatsoever of being a contestant for the funding. I think you're well positioned to be able to take advantage of that, and it would be great to see one of those large grants come to our community. To that end, do we have specific wording?
I have not provided that. We can work on that though.
But just Mr. Villa's fingers working away there. Just to master the word so that we meet your needs as well as the needs of the grantor. In many instances, we've seen come across council's table the last little while is we've had to redo some resolutions just so that the wording met the needs of the funder. And some of those historically have been to the extent of financial being willing and able to administer the grants, and some of them, I think one was also some financial backstopping if the project should run short. So we have to make these decisions with that information in mind. Councilor Rutley?
Thank you for providing the Director of Corporate Services and Communications some extra time if necessary. I just want to commend Brace and Larry thus far for the work completed and having attended the GSS River Day back in June. It was a good opportunity to kind of throw the opportunity back at some of the kids from grade 8 to, I don't think there were any grads. I think they were doing rehearsals for a ceremony, but from grade 8 to 11 to really throw the question back at them as to what they would like to see along the river corridors. And I was pretty struck. I had assumed that, you know, some cash and some talking points might have been exchanged, but you know, they were also like looking for those access points or a place to get down to the river, kind of what is envisioned there for Centennial Park, and then you know, to be able to get down to the river. And so it was a great opportunity to hear the next generation of Golden residents excited about the possibility of a project that's already underway, and yeah, so just kind of hands go up to you, Brace and Larry, and on the long journey that this has been, but the renewed energy behind the initiative is certainly really exciting. And with that, words.
Excellent job.
Yes.
So to that, we have some verbiage up on the screen. Is there any value in adding working with First Nations to the resolution? I just throw it out there as a thought. In partnership with stakeholders? Okay.
Yeah.
I would suggest keeping it very simple, because the intention is to use this for the grant application, not to, you know, delineate like what they can do.
Okay, thank you for that. So we have some suggested language on the board there, Councillor Rutley,
So moved.
moving the resolution. Looking for a seconder, Councillor Manuel. Any discussion? So before I ask the question, the assumption is that as the identified liaison between Mr. Petrovic and the GCED and the C2CI group, Mr. Petrovic, you feel you have capacity in the time frame that is presented before us?
I think if council passes this resolution to kind of put the approval in for the Rotary Club partnership and the application that's already in the works, then we could have a real brief conversation about the question that I know you're asking of me right now. Because this resolution can be used for the group to apply with the Rotary Club partnership to get that application process in. The conversation around the swim, drink, fish wave prizes, I almost see as a separate item from a work plan capacity standpoint, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Gonna call the questions. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Seeing none, carried unanimously. Thank you very much for the presentation, and thanks for, you talked about a couple years' work, but you also alluded to 15 years of previous vision and aspiration. That is one word for sure. Mr. Petrovic?
Yeah, sorry, Your Worship. Just with that resolution passed, this allows the group to apply for the one granting initiative that's associated with the funding for the Rotary Club. It would be beneficial to have direction from council on the swim, drink, fish initiative and potential staff time in terms of bringing back some information and impact on chasing and applying for that grant. From a staffing capacity standpoint, this is a $3 million+ granting opportunity to help a project that isn't officially on the Recreation Services work plan. But I would be happy to bring back another report that kind of outlines a bit of capacity and such on chasing that grant application, because that grant is specific to municipalities to apply for. So it's very different than the initiatives that the C2I group is currently chasing.
Thank you for that. And do you want that in the form of direction or resolution?
I'm looking across the table. Well, I got a wave.
Ms. Seville may have some verbiage there on the screen for us shortly. Or not. So I'm looking for a move of that motion. Councilor Routley, seconder. Councilor Cooper. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I think it's a great opportunity, and if it's coming through. Just trying to remember the information. I looked at it quickly. It's the Weston.
The granting opportunity is tied back to funding from the Weston family. And as it was just announced yesterday, I need to do a little bit more reading before getting too deep into this one.
Thank you for that. And I looked at the pictures and looked like some great projects that were conceptually
Mhm.
brought forward or thought of. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Carried unanimously. So Brace or Larry, anything else?
I'd like to, do you have any more like suggestions for us to pursue as part of a community initiative, like other things we could do better? I think we are working on our strategies, but open to ideas as you guys might have as members of the community.
Thank you for that. And I don't see anything jumping out at
Yeah,
this point in time,
Let us
but
know.
but
We can
you've
have you talk when you
put the offer out there and we will take advantage of that opportunity. Thank you for that. And thank you very much for the presentation. And thanks for making sure that Larry sat in the back. Okay, with that, council, we're gonna move on to correspondence. I'm moving for a motion that the items of external correspondence be received, and there's one action item and a number of informational items. Councilor Guile. Looking for a seconder, Councilor Routley. So the correspondence is from the Battered Women's Support Services. And they're making us aware of the hashtag Designed with Survivors campaign that reframes gender-based violence as a public safety crisis. They're asking municipalities to asking municipalities to explore practical steps they can take to strengthen prevention, response, and coordination. They've also put out an offer of being willing to have a meeting or do a presentation for council. And if council has a desire to follow up on this, please speak up. Councilor Guile.
I don't know if it would be appropriate. Is this something that we can forward to the Women's Center?
We can forward to, but it's a specific ask for municipalities.
I
Sure.
just don't know where that lies with us as a.
Within the operations. I'd look to Mr. Denigar. Is there a staff member that has been tapped on the shoulder? Does this fit into anybody's bailiwick?
No, this isn't something that we're actually taking care of in any way specifically that I'm aware of. What they're mentioning is like task forces. We don't have the capacity for that as a small municipality. As we have in the past, certainly if there's relevant communications online through social media, we can repost those things. But I think that perhaps starting this simply as a conversation between staff and the individuals here, that we could see if there's something that we could do at a low level without much impact. But starting a whole new program doesn't seem likely.
And one of the aspects is we could request a meeting or a presentation and invite folks from the Women's Center so they have the information and then see where that goes. I just thrown that out as a suggestion. So Council Manuel.
Okay. I sympathize for this. Who wouldn't? it seems to me to be very similar to what we received last year, which was suggesting we include this issue in terms of our planning. I'm a bit, I don't know, I'm dissatisfied because I see no reference to anyone else they're working with. And I did go on their website and I found again no evidence or information about groups that we're working with. And I did check with the CAO over at the Women's Center because I thought she might know more. Because if there was something, yeah, I'd be there to advocate. But no, she's not aware of anything either. So without further information of substance, yeah, I just don't see it.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna take that as no action on this item. We'll move on to the informational items. Just bring them up here. We have an email from David Clapperton with regards to the Sevens and Bears Paw subdivision. And they provided some points for consideration by council in our deliberations and thoughts around this project. Once we receive a proposal and an application that is complete. And they're also in the email, they're requesting the opportunity or believing that there's an opportunity for public input on the development proposal. So move on to the next one, which is a letter from Interior Health. This is a follow-up of our meeting with them at UBCM to discuss health topics. They want to continue to work to strengthen our health services in Golden, and they look forward to the opportunities for continued collaboration. They note the subject matters, the topics that we discussed with them. And that's just a follow-up on UBCM. The next one is communication from UBCM with regards to encouraging local governments to share feedback with regards to the proposed revisions of the Heritage Conservation Act. Also drawn attention to the fact that there'll be 2 webinars available for folks. Thank you. And the opportunity to provide UBCM members to provide comments on the changes. The next is an email from an individual, thank you very much, from Smithers. Requesting lobby for changes to capture more of the community's values from their perspective. The next one was a communication from, and I'm just trying to find Green Space for All coordinator, Cats and Birds coordinator from an individual, drawing our attention to the Stewardship Center for BC, inviting us and our staff to join a virtual lunch and learn session about the role and application of cat bylaws in British Columbia. Opportunity for staff and others that should they so desire. Is that well? And I think the last one is a few photos from Wildside with regards to the sponsorship from the recent film festival. And making us aware that there was, that's very large, that 160 people attended, and they had a successful silent auction also. Is there anything from those informational items that council would like to bring forward? If not, we'll move on to 7D, which is internal correspondence. Look for a motion that the items of internal correspondence be received. Counselor Wheel, Counselor Routley. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And the one item is a memorandum from Miss Seville. Can you speak to that, please?
Thank you, Mayor Ozus. This is your monthly resolution tracking memo. So this just gives you an update since the first meeting in October of where we are at with the most recent resolutions passed by council. And so if there's any questions, myself or some of the other directors may be able to answer them for you.
Thank you for that. Council, any questions with regards to the tracking report? I saw a thumbs up. I had a quick question. I wondered, does anything ever come off of this? And I think about 25-174, which is the top of page 7. And the statement in the comments is no longer applicable because the applicant has withdrawn their proposal. Would this be then disappearing at the next meeting? That's kind of the process. Okay, thank you for that. Because otherwise this is going to be a very long list. It's also an incentive to get them off the list. Councilor Manuel?
Would it be possible probably to indicate somewhere on one of the items which has changed since the last meeting? So
Ms. Seville?
The only real indicators that I get that of what has been updated is when the status has been updated. So if it's gone from assigned to active or achieved, in terms of general updates, all of the directors are updating them at any given time. And I don't get notified of those. So it's kind of the most recent to the oldest. So as things change.
Is there any potential for the directors when they're updating to highlight it or color code it or something of that nature?
Something I've done where we've previously implemented this is that in the description under the comments column, directors would actually put an update date in front of their comment. So we could actually kind of include it in the description. So if we go in and type something.
That'd be
we can-
excellent.
Yeah.
That'd be an excellent opportunity. Okay, thank you for that. If there's nothing else, we'll move on to item 7E, which is outgoing correspondence, and looking for motion that the items of outgoing correspondence be acknowledged. Councilor Routley, seconded by Councilor Manuel. And again, this is just a letter of acknowledgement on behalf of Town of Golden, support for the Golden Co-op's radio application for a community FM broadcast license. And this was somewhat timely, I guess, from what I understood, so it went under my signature as opposed to coming to council for a resolution. So all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Didn't want to leave that one off the plate. So we'll now go to council reports from council on their activities in the last couple weeks with their councilor hat on. Councilor Manuel?
I attended the first meeting of a committee of the newly formed committee with the Climate Caucus focused on disinformation, which we know is a growing issue in many different aspects of our lives. Let's see, we will be, okay, our staff already had some prep material they'd given us, and I'll pass it on. Let's see, and some of the attendees had already been how to say, finding it a problem in their areas kind of thing, which is unfortunate. But so we'll see where this goes, and I'll try and keep you in touch with anything of a positive or nature or negative, if that's what you should know about or could. Yeah. Anyway, leave it there.
Thank you, Councilman Manuel. Any questions of Councilor Manuel? Seeing none, any other council reports? Councillor Routley.
Thank you, Mayor. I was had the privilege of attending the Kicking Horse Country Chamber of Commerce's Business Community Excellence Awards. Big congratulations to all of the finalists. I won't list all of the winners, but some particular highlights for the Peterborough Evans Volunteer of the Year Award, which is presented on behalf of the town in partnership with the Golden District Community Foundation, as well as the Chamber, to Lucille Hayward. The New Business of the Year, Semicolon Skateboards, did their Dark to Dawn, Dark to Light skate show earlier this year, and Young Entrepreneur of the Year, which was Melissa Johnson with Melicure. The mayor and I had the opportunity to chat near the end of the event, and an observation that we'd both made was how young the crowd was. I mean, there was still plenty of gray hair, and of course there's a particular call out for legacy companies that have been in the community for a sustained period, but it really is heartening to see the next generation, my generation, and some younger people starting up businesses, taking new businesses on, or in kind of taking over the torch, and some great new business starts. So it was a fantastic evening, very fun, and a great opportunity to see how alive and well the business community within Golden is. And I'll kind of just leave it at that.
Thank you for that. Any questions of Councillor Routley? See none, any other council reports? Councillor Coop?
I was just gonna mention, as the liaison for Kicking Horse Culture, this week, Thursday, November 6th at 6 to 7:30 is their AGM at the Civic Center. So it is an event that they go through what they've accomplished over the year, budgets and where they're at. And it's really always a nice visual and fun thing to see everything they do, like from music in the park and kids events, the Snow King, or it's not called that now, but what's it called? Emberfest. Yeah, things change. So yes, it's a really nice event. It's an AGM, so it's November 6th, this Thursday, 6 to 7:30 at the Civic Center if anyone's interested.
Thank you for drawing everyone's attention to that. Any questions of Councillor Cooper? Any other council reports? I'll try and do a brief run through. With Director Cathcart still in the room, I'll talk about a number of one-on-one conversations that I've had with the director involving a wide spectrum of subject matters, from aquatics in our community to the Golden Trail Alliance, to the Golden to Nicholson Trail, to the community forest, funding options for community economic development, some conversations around the arena concession renovation and the Golden Legion repairs, and the hope and the desire that they be up and operational for Remembrance Day. I've also had a number of conversations with the public about proposed developments in our community. I had an opportunity, along with Councillor Hambrick, although individually, to do an interview with a representative from Interior Health for an article that's highlighting our community. In the last couple of weeks, I've attended a couple Columbia River Treaty Local Government Committee Zoom meetings. Had the opportunity to receive the first poppy with the Legion, start off the Poppy Blitz. They attended a 2-day Columbia Basin Trust Task Force meeting. And the Columbia Basin Trust, under the new Columbia Basin Management Plan, has three focus task force: clean energy, local food, housing, and water. And just as a plug, I'm the CBT board liaison for the water task force. I attended the Community Excellence Awards, and Councillor Routley and I were having the conversation that I was there with my wife, Carmen, and we actually have celebrated more anniversaries than some of those folks. Young entrepreneurs, strong business people have been alive. It must be getting old. Also attended the council's CEO performance review process with our facilitator. Great to get that going. Had the opportunity to attend the fire department gathering upon the receipt of a new fire apparatus. Fire departments get excited about big trucks. I was excited about a big truck. I got to see where all the buttons and the bells and the whistles were. Also attended the Columbia Shuswap Regional District Committee of the Whole meeting. And at that meeting, there was the 2026 work plans were received and the board provided feedback for future consideration and approval. There was consideration of the department work plans being the first step in that preparing, producing, and approving the 5-year budget. It's kind of similar to the process that we as council are going through. For your information, each of the general managers provided a public facing document that is intended to provide a higher level narrative for the board feedback. It was quite interesting. And that information will provide guidance for staff to do the detailed plans for the 2026 to 2030 financial plan. And we also review the proposed CSRD strategic plan with a recommendation that we come to the November board meeting. So my thought quickly is that we're not alone in doing strategic planning at this stage in the political careers. It's just a good business move. Some of the things that I'm keeping my eyes on are just the future RCMP policing costs for our community. This is getting closer and closer, and it is a large ticket item, and it scares me. And the upcoming town budgeting process. I'd also like to let you know that Councilor Guil will be making the Remembrance Day remarks. And I thank you very much, Councilor Guil. And I would be remiss if I did not say publicly thank you to Barb Henke for her 18+ years working for the municipality. If I recall correctly, Barb has tendered a resignation for, can you please remind me, the day is the end of the year?
November 7th.
November 7th, oh my gosh. She's closer to being out the door than I thought. So I just, on behalf of all those who have had the opportunity to work with her, and she will be missed by so many people, and that she served over the decades almost, for sure, at the front counter. Greatly appreciated, and wish her nothing but fun and happy travels in her retirement. And I think I'll leave it at that. Any questions? Seeing here none. Any other reports? If not, then we'll go to reports from staff. We have a verbal report from the Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Denegar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for myself, been busy with senior staff as well on the joint job evaluation committee. This work's been ongoing for many, many months, and it's been recently kind of intense, a number of full days in a row, making good progress on that with results hopefully happening sometime next year. This is to create equity amongst the workforce. Also in preparation the last number of days for collective bargaining with our QP union, which starts tomorrow morning, bright and early. And corporate services and communications, staff are finalizing an updated on-leash/off-leash dog map for Golden to provide greater clarity and an update based on intensive public engagement. And the second meeting in November will be the introduction of that bylaw amendment. Speaking of bylaw enforcement is busy supporting public works and preparing for winter by helping getting the roads and alleys clear before the snow falls, which could be any day now. Corporate services has also posted, because of that retirement of Barb, has posted an IT support coordinator job. When does that close?
November 14th.
November 14th. So if you know anybody who's super techie, we'd love to have them apply. The Create to Get Closer mural project, as approved by council in May, was completed in mid-October with students from the Francophone School and Nicholson Elementary. Corporate Services is working with the rec department in selecting an installation location within the recplex, hopefully out of reach of basketballs and such. There will be a small unveiling event of the mural in January. We'll make sure that gets out to council. Finance and admin recruitment efforts are actively underway for a finance services lead, and the posting closes on November 14th. Detailed work on the 2026-2030 financial plan is ongoing, as you heard just hours ago. And as well, because budgeting and hiring isn't enough, finance and admin is also working on an interim audit, and document compilation is underway. In the fire department, as was mentioned by the mayor, pump 1 has arrived and the department is hard at work getting it ready for service. And tonight they are actually in training. In planning and development, staff are working with consultants EcoPlan on the details of a work plan for the new official community plan and the zoning bylaw update. Some building permits of note, repair work at McDonald's, a new single detached dwelling, and a secondary suite and renos. So fixing up the restaurants and adding more housing. Speaking of housing, the BC Housing Project will be on the November 18th council agenda for council's consideration. Public Works 2025 pavement patching is completed just in time for winter. Well, number 7, the request for proposals will be advertised and closing in December. And the Pine Drive sanitary main alternate alignment will be advertised and closing in December. Last but not least, recreation services. Construction at the Racket Court site is wrapping up with hydro seed work and final landscaping efforts now completed. And the new curling rink chiller housed within the arena ice plant is now installed and operational to support the curling rink this season. Any questions? Happy to answer.
Thank you for that. Council, any questions, Mr. Dinigar? I guess maybe a question through you to possibly Mr. Armstrong with regards to time frame on the OCP. I heard you reference the OCP and that kind of going through those initial information gathering processes. Do we have a timeline for initiation?
Well, I'll welcome Armstrong to speak to that.
Thank you, Mayor Ozust. We are just refining the timeline a bit. I think ultimately, with having meaningful public consultation, that would really probably start in the new year. Getting through to adoption prior to the election will be tight. So that is what we are working on that schedule, and seeing if that's possible, and with some opportunities for if we need to dig into certain topics deeper to have that expand, with knowing that first reading and then a public hearing and then second and third reading and then formal endorsement from provincial agencies prior to, basically, we don't really want to present an outgoing council with controversial decisions potentially in September prior to an election. So our goal would be to have the project done by the end of August. So that's some of the items we're working through that schedule with the consultant, and we'll bring forward kind of a Gantt chart plan, I'm thinking, as part of the communications plan, which is the first step that we would high level share with council and create a project web page on our website and do that definitely before the end of 2025.
Thank you very much for that, and sorry to put you on the spot
No
like
worries.
that. Appreciate that. It's important for our community, and when you were presenting the information, I thought, well, the relevance of in outgoing council, incoming council, but yes, if there are some touchy points within the documents, it can be challenging for an outgoing council to set some direction that the incoming council might have to deal with. So I appreciate your efforts to try and expedite that and have it done, as you stated, possibly August. Follow up?
Well, yeah, one more follow-up is the decision has been made by myself and the consultant team that the zoning bylaw will get finalized in 2027 with the new council. So there'll be an opportunity probably there'll be some carryover for sure for the two big documents.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions? So with that, we'll move on to the Recreation Services Department. And what do we have? Mr. Petrix, we have I just gotta find it here. A staff report from yourself with regards to the Golden Swimming Pool Study EOF funding request, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy with how quickly I turned this one around, considering the motion was made back at the 21st meeting for staff to bring back some stuff. And in between that time, I managed to have a face-to-face meeting with regional district staff on this matter and bring forward a report for you on the next steps, next possible steps that we can take with the aquatic services within our community. So back at the 21st of October council meeting, the mayor passed a motion or a notice of motion for us to explore the funding mechanisms associated with creating a study to look at the next steps for our outdoor pool, potentially building an indoor-based facility, or if funding allows, pursuing an indoor facility or outdoor facility. We're putting together a little bit of a position paper here to seek EOF funding, and are looking for a total budget of $200,000, 150, which would be split to the consultant-based work, and then additional 50,000 that would recover primarily the staff time associated with bringing this report forward. And for council's benefit, with the CSRD indoor project, all of your staff time, primarily mine, was recovered through that operational budget as well. So this is presented in a similar funding format to what was done with the past project. Looking at EOF as an option, we did have staff had a meeting with regional district staff and looked at some of the different options on how we could fund this, and chatting with my counterparts at the regional district, EOF seemed like the most logical funding mechanism, as the feasibility study funds with the CSRD are generally geared towards a new level of service, where this project is not really a new level of service, especially looking at either repairing our existing outdoor or building a new outdoor pool. There's similarities there. And then within our existing shared services contributions that we get from the CSRD, the staff were not very comfortable with pursuing funding through that avenue as well, as that funding really is to offset our operational budgets for the 4 facilities that agreement helps fund. Sorry, I'm backtracking a bit, but back in 2014, EOF funding was provided to the pool in a way that it allowed us to pursue the federal Canada 150 granting applications that provided some pretty significant upgrades to the facility at the time, which included our accessible change room, shade sails, a new roof. We were looking at doing filtration as part of that project, but the costing came in too high. The Wibbit was purchased as part of that granting initiative, along with various other upgrades within the building within the brick and mortar aspects of the building. In 2019, obviously the EOF was used as a funding source to top up the splitting of the Whitetooth Legacy funds. There was funding that went to basically provide $1 million towards the planning processes for the CSRD indoor project, and then another $1 million that was provided for all the work with the Recplex Park block, which has morphed into your racket courts and much more. On that side of things, as we start looking now into developing a bit of a study, we've included some details in the report that are up on the screen in front of you, in terms of looking at doing a more extensive review of our existing facility, one of the big takeaways that staff would like to present out of this report would be, I refer to it as kind of the domino effect of larger renovations within the pool. If we replace a filtration system, will we have to replace an electrical system? Will we have to replace other components? And with that, I would really like to be able to provide some details to council on if this is an option that's preferred, how long will the facility need to be out of service to tackle those renovations and do the work within that facility? Provide some detailed pricing for you. And then with that pricing, obviously compare it to building a new based facility or outdoor facility. And then the third option being a new indoor facility. So we're starting to put out the framework of what this expression of interest or request for proposal process could look like with this project. And yeah, that kind of covers off the key points in the report. And out of it, we're looking for council's endorsement to bring this forward to the CSRD Board of Directors with an official request for $200,000 of EOF funding.
Thank you for that, Mr. Petrovic. Council, is there any requirements for additional information prior to getting a resolution on the floor? Council Will?
Well, I'm glad to see that, you know, that your wages will be covered, but I'm concerned, what are we gonna lose with you focusing on this? And now we're adding possibly another grant with the last presentation. So what about capacity wise?
Mr. Petrovic?
How's my coffee budget looking?
Some Red Bull in your coffee?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a concern that's been that I've brought up with the CAO. We're working through this side of things. Part of the reason for the request for the recovery of staff time is with some of that funding, we could potentially bring in some additional support on a contract basis for the recreation department to help do some more of the nuts and bolts work associated with getting your rec fees bylaw ready to go. I'm going to be exploring some different consultant-based opportunities that might help out with some of those other larger projects that are sitting on the recreation department's desk as well. So I'm huddling with my staff when they're back from holidays, and we're looking at ways to make sure we can divvy up the workload and use a bit of the staff recoverable funding on this to help fill some of the gaps within the department. So hopefully that grazes the tip of the iceberg on that one.
Follow up, Council Will?
Yes, I have one other question. There was a proposal that was brought forward by Spencer Lynchbury.
Mhm.
Is that going to be considered?
Yeah,
Mr.
so,
Petrovic?
so if budget and funding is approved and staff move on to the next steps with this one, we intend to reach directly out to the group that's been driving that project, and also the actual companies and consultants that I've been chatting with, and invite them to become part of the process, and submit an application through the expression of interest process that we develop. So this would be a great way for that project to be weighted with other proposals that would be forthcoming. So yeah, absolutely that opportunity, and making sure that the passion of the community that is still ongoing on this project, that they have the opportunity to funnel their conversations into this process will definitely be part of it.
Thank you for that. Question of clarification, Council Cooper?
I had kind of two areas. When looking through the 25 proposal swim project ideas, we had a discussion before about potentially like a 3-season pool. Like, what would that look like? Would that also be like, because I see in this, we're talking about either fixing what we have or potentially comparing to a new build. Could we have something that was like, I know it was a brief conversation about having enclosing what we already have. Could that be also included in this? Like, which would be only open 3 seasons, not the full winter, but could give it an extended season? Could we make that included as part of the comparison? Like, not to add a whole lot of extra time, but just so we have the option.
Absolutely, the ability to explore that as my gut feel is, as we work through kind of the detailed review of the existing facility, and if the financial potential or the feasibility from a cost perspective is there, then we would obviously explore deeper into those options of potentially covering the existing facility. so yeah, we haven't yet drafted, obviously, our process for this. So yeah, great notes that can be included as an option for us to explore in the scope of our existing facility. With that as well, too, staff really intend to bring forward some of the highs, the lows, the challenges, or the good, the bad, the ugly from a staffing perspective as well, to be operating in an extended capacity of what we are right now, I guess would be the best way to word that. Because underneath our current staffing structure, as council is aware, we lose 85-90% of our staff when school fires up again. So we want to bring that into the fold of this story as well, too, from an operations perspective, because we can build anything, but we also have to be able to operate it too. So
My next
Sarah?
my next comment is separate. Like, it was more around the HR point when you were talking about having the money for CSRD for time, and potentially I heard hiring potentially more staff to support. Would that be a temporary hire? Like, just so it would be a contract temporary hire, not creating a permanent?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, and this is why I want to meet with my own team as well. There's coverage, casual staffing that we could ramp up a little bit to put more people other than my key staff at the front desks during programming to free up their administrative time. There's different consultant-based options within that funding that could be allocated to free up some of our time on some of those more time-consuming projects. So yeah, we're looking at various options on that right now.
Thank you. Quick comment, I guess, the money from the EOF is actually, it's in the hands of the CSRD, but they're shared community dollars. So it's us contributing our own dollars as well as the Area A contributing equal dollars to backfill staffing from the municipal operations perspective. And in the existing resolution, it does say to explore options for expanding the scope of service. So that where my takeaway from that in your comments, Mr. Petrovic, is that the resolution right now would cover off that, the ability for staff to be able to do that exploration.
Absolutely. And expanding scope of services it is very broad. It can be the hours of operation that we have at the facility, or it can be the experience that a user has in terms of accessibility, how quickly the showers come up to temperature, like that. So it was put in very broad, but it is very firmly on my radar with this project that, looking at extended seasons and such is part of the puzzle that we bring forward to council.
Thank you for that. With that, I would move the recommendation, looking for a seconder. Councilor Routley seconding. Council, any comments, discussions prior to a vote? No further comments, discussions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you for that. Thank you for the report, and thank you for the quick turnaround on that. And we lose Director Cathcart.
She hasn't seen my coffee budget request yet. That's why she ran.
She's more worried about her vehicle right now. Yeah. So we move on to 10BB, which is the Civic Center Property Management Agreement. I'm gonna pull that one up. There it is. And again, Mr. Petrovic.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So the Golden Civic Center has been operated by Kicking Horse Culture since back in 2007 is when Kicking Horse Culture initiated the conversations at the time to basically come in as the operator of the facility. They actually took over the operations from another society at the time that was operating the facility on behalf of the town, and brought a lot more structure, a lot more horsepower, and of course, came to the table back in the days with the motivation to completely rebirth the facility. And the work that the association has done is provided an amazing legacy for our community in terms of the renos done within that building. The contract's been based on a 5-year agreement. It's been rolled over numerous times and renewed, with Kicking Horse Culture being at the helm of the bookings, the janitorial, and the flow in of revenues for the facility. town staff provide maintenance support for the building, snow removal on the Monday and Friday schedule, and look after all the scheduled work with contractors, HVACs and such at the building. So it is a joint operation in terms of how we operate that facility, but the front end of the building has been Kicking Horse Culture for over 15 years. The contract for the Civic Center operations is up at the end of this calendar year, so it's a great opportunity for staff to bring forward a report to get some direction from council on the direction of where we should go with this facility, and potentially open up a conversation on the options that we've put in front of you. So option one is looking at renewing the existing agreement underneath the existing structure, which has Kicking Horse Culture looking after all the bookings, collecting the revenues, and feeding that revenue back to the town with a little bit of oversight off of my desk on this side of things. The structure at Kicking Horse Culture has definitely changed a little bit in the last couple of years in terms of the staff and how they administer the staffing structure. Back in the day, there was a joint shared role between the booking coordinator and a programs coordinator for Kicking Horse Culture. So that person part-time Civic Center, part-time on different initiatives within Kicking Horse Culture. The bookkeeping role was also part-time based on Civic Center duties, and then part-time based on the other financial duties associated with the art gallery and all the other grants and such that Kicking Horse Culture pursues. The executive director has always had a little bit of time that comes in within the operations of the Civic Center itself. And then janitorial is a position that they've taken the lead on hiring and scheduling and such for the operations of the facility. So there's definitely some items, housekeeping items within the operational contract that staff want to bring forward, but the spirit, intent, and nature of the agreement could remain the same. That's essentially your option one. Looking at the second option, there is the ability for us to shift this contract slightly to having Kicking Horse Culture remain as kind of the frontline face for the building, looking after leading the rental process, making the bookings. And we've explored some efficiencies of potentially bringing the facility underneath the fold of the recreation booking software, in that we could set up a separate account that Kicking Horse Culture could basically operate, manage, and take all the bookings, but it would be on the exact same system that we're using right now. So the ability for us as staff to pull reports, get financial information, keep better tabs on that aspect of the bookings and such, there could be some great efficiencies there. And as if the change ever came down in terms of how we administer that contract, it could be a very seamless transition to pull that account underneath the town's recreation account within our software, and then have it all underneath one account within our software. We've done some exploratory conversations with the Civic Center manager on this, as well as hosted some calls with Amelia, which is our software provider on this front. And then the third option is the contemplation of shifting to the Recreation Services Department and bringing the full operations of that facility underneath the fold of the Recreation Department. This item has been noted in more casual conversation with council over the years, so it's an option that I've included in this report for further questions. I'll turn it over to questions with that.
Thank you for that. Actually, before we get into that, I'll ask the CEO to provide some of his comments for the public's information. Just to reiterate some of your comments on the report.
Yes. Scrolling around.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the point of my comments at the top is that there's no one right solution to this. First two options would allow for collaboration with Kicking Horse Culture to try to find the best approach for it. But staff have no operational need to do it one way or another. So thus it is a political decision and a sort of a public relations decision.
Thank you for that. I wanted to draw attention to that. Council, comments, questions before we get something rolling? Council Guil?
Yeah, I have a few. One is, I see this as the annual revenues have not exceeded 45% of the operating costs. So we're not getting a lot of revenue out of the building. I would like to see, I think ideally, if we could get an operator in there that has the interest of building occupancy in there, and it's a great building. How many days was it booked out other than for the court with the previous operator?
Mr. Petrovic?
That's a great question. Looking at the booking software, I would say your use in that building, sorry, I'm going to spitball this a bit, and I can definitely come back with some more detailed information, but I am looking at their booking calendar on a regular basis. Your courts agreement right now is basically allocated to 7 days a week, exclusive use for the courts. So that's ongoing and will be ongoing probably for the next 4 to 5 years. So just so in terms of days used, on average, I would say the building is used around, for other purposes across all user groups, about 15 to 20 days out of a 30-day month. So, and the nature of that facility is a little different in that traditionally from a booking perspective, the Civic Center has been more of a building that has been allocated for special events, for more one-off style events. And your question, Councillor Gill, kind of goes right into the potential of looking at doing more of a facilities review and the way we use our facilities as a whole across the community. In the past, we've never really accommodated regular reoccurring users, like say a dance group that would want to be on that stage every Wednesday night, because it takes away for the ability for us to do special concerts, public consultations, and all these other types of events. So there is a balance, and it definitely doesn't operate like our arena does, for instance, where pretty much every Monday through Thursday afternoon, it's the same schedule within that facility. So I'm kind of unpacking it a little bit, but
Follow-up?
Historically, though, prior to the renovation of that building, it used to be very much a community building
Mhm.
with a lot of different user groups
Mhm.
that used it.
Yep.
I think that I would prefer to see this go out to an RFP. I think that we could get value out of that building. Right now, we're subsidizing it. The CSRD is not subsidizing very much anymore. I guess they reached their cap or something.
It's still 20% on all facilities because the cap was the number of the cap. The dollar value of the cap was raised to meet the 20% across the board for the facilities that are identified in the shared services agreement.
But that shared service agreement, because it's half of what they paid last year in this budget.
I
Yeah.
can't speak to that, I'm sorry.
So I just think that I would like to see it utilized more, maybe along the same lines as having somebody in there that could operate it and bring in some dollars.
yeah. And I think to your comments, Councillor Yo, this is an exercise that's never been undertaken in this facility. And the opportunity definitely exists, but from an operational perspective, we as the owners of the building have never actually challenged the contractor to do specifically that. The operational contract as it stands right now is deal with the bookings and such as they come in and book the facility. And within the contract, we don't have fully set aside marketing dollars or initiatives for the operator to be stretching that place to the seams. Definitely, I would like to bring back some more detailed information on bookings and such and what's happening within that facility right now. But yeah, you raised some very valid points in that it's an exercise that's never been put on the contractor's plate or really even contemplated underneath the rec department.
Thank you for that. Any further follow-up? Okay, Councilor Cooper?
Yeah, I had a couple of things I'll start with the Amelia for the bookings. If we were going with an Amelia booking option, is there a cost associated with adding a new form of booking? Because it wouldn't look the same as booking a kid's swim lesson, like it would have to be modified to do a facility booking. So would there be a cost involved with updating Amelia to make that kind of happen? And what would the potential cost be of that? And then another part is if we were to go with number 2, who does the caretaking then? Because caretaking is part of the contract now with Kicking Horse Culture. If we were to move to an Amelia base, would the caretaking stay with Kicking Horse Culture, or would that be brought back to the town?
So you're,
Ms. Petrick?
yeah, so your second option is definitely broad in terms of who could be the front person for the facility, in terms of taking the bookings, putting the bookings into the system. To your comment around the software itself, the majority of our bookings we actually do kind of behind the scenes, and we use that software. So we actually have a platform that's very turnkey for Civic Center bookings within there. We'd be looking at about a $200 cost in terms of training to get the system up and running. And I'll have to dig up the annual software costs, but it's quite minimal because it would be kind of piggybacked on our existing contract with the software company that, based on the conversations I had with them earlier last week. So relatively minimal costs that would actually provide some savings on the charged out accounting fees that come to us from Kicking Horse Culture right now. I would be forecasting a bit of a wash in terms of savings on contracted services fees for the accounting and bookkeeping that's going on right now versus more of a streamlined system where we could pull the reports. And I can gladly bring more back to council on that. But yeah, underneath the second option, Kicking Horse Culture could be the agency that answers the phone, that takes the bookings, that has the hired janitor and looks after essentially everything that they're doing right now, with a shift in the way that the accounting practices are tackled for the facility, and bringing that into the Amelia software.
So my follow-up, would be, could the platform someone book without, like, after out, like, I know before, like many years
Yep.
ago when things were being booked through the town, one of the complaints or ideas was people couldn't access the town buildings between 9 and 4 potentially. Could people be booking Amelia outside of regular working hours? If I wanted to potentially book a wedding, I could go into Amelia and book a date, and then someone would contact me? Or is it the basis? What I understood before is we went to a contractor because they had a lot more hours available to public.
The idea behind a booking software and what has worked best for us with our other facilities is that we actually have a person who manages those booking requests. And we can post the actual availability for the public to see. So if someone's planning their wedding 3 years out, they can click in and see, oh, great, those weekends are open. I would like to put a hold on those. We do need to have kind of human interaction within that booking process rather than a full-blown online booking process. Because what will happen is we'll have bookings that'll be booked way too tight. We won't have proper cleaning time. We won't have the proper time to actually flip, inspect, and do all of those maintenance aspects we have to do after a booking. So using the Recplex as an example, we don't let the public just come in and book, because somebody could book something like the ski swap, and then they could be trying to book pickleball 10 minutes after that event finishes. So we as staff go in, work with the users, get their needs, and then block out that appropriate time within that. But the ability for public to go in, look at a calendar and go, oh, those dates are open, I'd like to inquire. That's the intent with a software like this.
Okay. A follow-up, but not a follow-up. Another question,
Maybe I'll go into one of the councils.
it's really quick.
Okay.
The contract for courts, is it a signed contract for a set number of years?
No. I've so Quartz has preferred to stay on a year-over-year contract. And we've been in discussions with Quartz for the last 4 months to get a renewed contract. And due to the strike and such, nobody was able to mail us a contract. So we're now following up with Quartz on that. Luckily, though, underneath the existing agreement, the money is still flowing. So it's not an alarming issue from a financial perspective. But with Quartz right now, they're reluctant to sign a multi-year agreement for that facility as they continue to work through whatever their solution is going to be.
Thank you for that. Thank you. That's short. Council Manuel?
I'd certainly be happy to see more money out of that. That's never a bad deal, I mean, to the town. But at the same point, I want to maintain its value, and it's a value to the community. I mean, we have community events there. We have music and all that, but there are other kinds of community events as well. And that's what a community center is. So I want to be mindful of that value. And if we can get, maybe if we can rent some offices downstairs or something like that, no one's using, okay, sure. But I don't want to lose sight of what the value of a community building is, or a civic center as it is.
Councillor Utley?
Thank you, Mayor Azust. Yeah, and kind of going through option 2, I heard that's kind of a wash on the extra Amelia costs and the current accounting practices. My mind goes like operationally, we've still got that human element likely with KHC if that were the direction. And my hope, and I guess my first question is kind of with that separate Amelia account, like they're going to be able to financially administer that process, so we're not taking up staff time with a wedding refund or anything like that. So there's no knock-on impacts to staff time there from the admin side.
I'll jump in before you ask me 3 other questions, so I don't forget this one. Aside from a little bit of support, just because we have in-house experts, very minimal amount of time would be the intent. And we're looking at around $200 worth of training time with the actual software company. I would envision over the course of 2 months, maybe 10 to 15 hours max of time with our rec booking coordinator, just to be like, how do I do this? Oh, here you go. So pretty minimal impact on that. But the end goal is just all the reporting, all the information that's then handed over to the finance department would be on the exact same platform as our facilities. So there'd be some nice efficiencies on that side of things. So that's kind of the idea and the intent of looking at this option.
Follow up?
Thank you.
Second question.
Well, no, I am certainly echo some of the sentiment around the desire to make sure that all of our facilities are producing as much value as possible for taxpayers, not necessarily in the sense that we're not subsidizing as much, but also providing cultural value and a great social space within the community. It is, of course, a very different space, as the Director of Recreation Services mentioned. It's not a tailored space for ice-based recreation or something that you can really fit a bunch of programming in, and that those turnover times are a big consideration. And so we have to be cognizant, unless we're cranking up the rents. I don't necessarily expect profit, but I guess my mind goes to the question of like, is it broken? Does the current status quo approach need fixing? And I'm hearing that there's certainly the opportunity for some operational efficiency and to have all the accounting side improved. But yeah, I worry that the unintended consequences of changes. Personally, I would lean more towards option 1 on that basis. But
Thank you. Actually, I'm going to ask to hold it because we've had a number of councillors who haven't spoken yet. So I'll go to Councillor Dale, or any comments at this point in time? Just want to make sure we go around the table.
None for me. I'm satisfied.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Hambrick?
No, I mean, I'm leaning towards option 2, but there's no big deal either way.
Okay, thank you for that. Now we haven't heard from Ron. I'll speak to it and then we'll go around second round. I look it up. Option 1. Option 1 is an easy status quo, continue on to the comment. It ain't broke, why fix it? When I see option 2, I see the opportunity of Amelia, of better data, which is critical in making decisions for anything. I go back one step, and I recognize this is a request for a 5-year contract. Am I correct?
Historically, the agreement's been based on a 5-year agreement, just because, again, it hasn't been broke, so we haven't fixed it in that, with that kind of mentality. So that's what we have on the table for council consideration.
Okay. And with regards to option 3, I see 2 FTEs included there, but I don't see any numbers relative to the costs associated with that. Not that finances are gonna drive the whole decision, but it's part of the mix of the information for council.
Yeah, and your worship, through that comment, staff threw that on as an option that if council wanted to see more, we would come back with another report. But rather than doing a long-winded exercise of projecting a bunch of numbers for you for an option that I had no idea what the appetite would be, this would be a starting point for more follow-up.
Okay, thank you for that. Before I state my preference, I looked at the financials on page 4 or 5. And a lot of stuff jumps out at me as far as the contract in general services jumped in 2024 quite dramatically by $100,000. And we were able to generate an additional $36,000 a year for revenue from the provincial court system. I'm sure that not all that jump in the contract in general services was as a result of the courts being in there, but kind of a quick takeaway is it cost us $100,000 to generate $36,000 worth of revenue from the province for the court system. Is that a fair takeaway, or is there something else
No,
in there?
There was also some other operational projects that were tackled in 2024. Some work done with the elevator, some more emergency related repairs that had to be done with the elevator that definitely shot that budget up. In context of looking at the operational contract and the cost, if we scroll down on the report that's on the screen a bit, we do have another line that breaks out the specific fees billed back to us from Kicking Horse Culture. And those other variances in the operational side of things are definitely based on some mechanical issues, some different emerging needs within the facility that really created that skew that you're picking up in the budget.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate that information. Personally, I'm leaning towards option 2, being able to gather that extra data, recognizing that, as has been stated here, that it's kind of business as usual, but with this platform to be able to gather the data. But I also love where Councillor Wheel's going as far as, I guess I'll put it in the form of a question. Would there be the opportunity to explore the concept of somehow financially motivating the contractor to increase usage, to generate more revenues, so it's a win-win for all parties? Would that be possible under option 2?
Absolutely, and that question, and it really spins into some components that could be tackled within a recreation master plan process. And then in these meetings as well, that, I've brought up the term a couple times on looking at a facilities master plan. And when we look at the way the Civic Center operates and how it traditionally has been serving the community and how we run our other spaces, there's opportunities for efficiencies. There's opportunities to get like a regular dance group within the building or something of that nature. But I think in order to give council the proper platform to make some good decision making and create some initiatives for these different spaces, it would be best to look at all of our facilities and how they operate and how they intertwine. Because right now, the way after the envisioning process that happened with the Civic Center and all the work that was put in back in the day, there was initiatives in there that were, at the time fit well for the community. And there's some elements that haven't been delivered upon in terms of creating the venue as like a conference venue and such. Like, we haven't seen that kind of visitation within there. So yeah, by all means, we can chat with Kicking Horse Culture and talk about ways that let's get some more use. Let's figure out some ways to bump up the revenues within the building. Yeah, just for council's note as well, your bylaw, your rates and fees bylaw was updated for the first time in 10 years early this year, and it does expire before the end of this fiscal. So that's another project I'll be bringing back to council for direction on. In terms of potential increases to the existing rental rates. So yeah, it's in my mind, it's a much bigger project, and there's lots of different things we can do to make some traction on the desires to do more with the building.
Thank you for that. Again, with that information supplemental, I lean towards option 2 with the opportunity to explore other revenue generating opportunities, as well as look at the big picture as far as facilities, and that's a longer term process. Okay, I'll go second round, Councilor Cooper.
I was just gonna comment to Councilor Routley's it's ain't broken, don't fix it kind of comment, which was totally fine. I don't want to speak specifically for Keegan Horticulture, but I have been in their meetings and they have stated before that they are fine with it. And I've heard though also they don't receive any financial benefit, like they pay the same rates, they don't get priority bookings. So it was by no means a complaint by their side, but they were saying that in their they don't really get a lot of benefits either from running the contract. So they enjoy it and they see it as part of their duties to arts and culture. But at the same time, I don't think they would be offended if it changed, because they're not getting a huge amount of financial gain or reward out of it either. But they're also, the comments after all of their roundtables was they were happy to continue with the contract as it was. But I do like the idea of option 2 of trying something new, but maybe only as a 1-year contract as a trial basis, instead of embedding right now into a 5-year of the unknown. What if it doesn't work? And what if we harm our partnership a little bit with Kicking Horse Culture? I don't want that to be tarnished in any way. I want to still have a really good working relationship with them. So it gives us kind of a little bit of an out. If it's not working, we can resort back to what's not broken, don't fix kind of model.
So with that, I'll go to Mr. Petrovic as far as, have you had conversations with Kicking Horse Culture relative to that perspective as far as a 1-year contract relative to?
The CAO and myself hosted a meeting with the board chair and Logan with the executive director from King Horse Culture. So we did have a good open conversation about the contract and how it's managed. From a staff perspective and looking at existing workloads and some comments made earlier in this meeting, our existing contract has a 30-day out clause that both parties could exercise at any given time. We would intend to keep that clause within the contract. I would be a little concerned about signing a 1-year agreement, as in it's another administrative task that takes time to bring forward reports of this nature. And we would maybe explore more of a 3-year deal, but making sure that that clause is highlighted in terms of that 30-day out clause. Because if we do get good traction and things are working well, and we're seeing that, it saves staff a lot of time in terms of bringing forward another contract renewal report.
Thank you for that information. I'll go to Councilor Wheel, then Councilor Manuel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I like the idea of having Kicking Horse Culture and the second option. I also think that it would be nice to see some marketing funds go towards this. You can all say, well, they wait for bookings to come, but we need to bring some revenue in there. And I would like to see maybe some revenue share with the Kicking Horse Culture, because that will motivate them to advertise and promote the building and promote the space. It's a great facility. I go to their website and I see the facility. We don't have any prices there. How many times somebody would email and maybe they don't get any information back right away, because their focus, right, is arts and culture. So maybe if we can like tighten up it a little bit and try to promote it as a opportunity for them as well, that will bring in more revenue for.
Incentivize.
Yeah.
Any response, Mr.
Yeah,
Petrovic?
definitely. So to the response on the booking inquiries, with this shift of having more of a dedicated part-time position, I've personally seen a massive improvement in response times and the management of that. So inquiries that are being emailed to are at the same level or even beyond what we do with our own booking inquiries right now. So the group has a great person who's managing that and is dedicated to the facility right now. So that change has been quite nice in terms of some of the past challenges we had with the facility operator. As staff, we can gladly have these conversations with Kicking Horse Culture, and this really is a change in the historic way that the facility was operating, and that comes with the changes in the staff, and then the changes within the town of Golden structure as well. That there is a desire to, move the needle a little bit with that facility. So through the bylaw, there's a great opportunity to bring back a further debate to council, and if option 2 is the one that council's leaning with, we can gladly come back with some more ideas and options on how we can try to move that usage needle and more information for you as well, because I admit I'm a little underprepared with the stats and data that I think council would need to see on the bookings. And we do have that at hand. It's one of those things that'll take me a little while to pull together.
Thank you for that. We'll go to Council Manuel.
I'm at this same point. I'd go with option 2. It makes benefits, and I would agree with Councillor Gio that maybe we can certainly try to get better use out of it without distracting from our traditional use. So yeah, that's where I am.
So unless you're gonna put forward a motion,
I have one very quick question, I promise.
please. I've heard that before. Go ahead. Go
Um,
ahead, please. And she's kept to her word.
Conversations have been had with KHC. Similar question as to what the mayor posed. Were the option 1 and option 2 presented to KHC, and did they present a preference? I look to it's a little less contracted service to the bookkeeper or accountant than filing everything to the town. So maybe I could see a reason for preference.
Yeah, I would say that we've discussed both options with Kicking Horse Culture, and we've done a demo with the Civic Center manager on the Amelia system, and kind of shown the potential within that, so they understand that they can work within that software with some support and training. The other caveat with the first option is that KHC is still working through changing some of their financial practices and such. And so they've actually been asking on making changes on the existing system right now. So to have them go through a bunch of administrative work to change their own platform, rather than changing to a platform that is synchronized with the rest of our operations, is a part of the motive of bringing forward this second option, rather than us paying for contracted services time for them to adjust their own systems for a second time. We could just adjust them into a system that's perfectly aligned with ours. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Follow up, Councillor Routley.
With that being said, I'm happy to place a motion on the table that the council directs staff to proceed with option 2.
Thank you. Second in the motion, Councillor Guil. Speaking to the motion, Councillor Dale.
Nope, just waiting to vote.
Ready. Okay, and I'm supportive of the motion. So again, we're talking a 5-year contract, continuation of the 30-day clause. Also with the direction to explore financial incentives that'll benefit both parties. And ultimately, I heard Mr. Petrovic note that he would be willing to bring back a supplemental information report to council.
And the CAO and myself have been discussing a little bit about bringing forward almost a discussion paper style format on giving council a little bit more of the insight of the nitty gritty of bookings and how our facilities operate and what we juggle around and how we accommodate our users, and bringing the Civic Center into that fold as well. So if council is open to having more of a report presentation on on the buildings, on our facilities and what we're doing within them, Civic Center being a big component of this. That's kind of an item that's already on my work plan to come to within the next couple months. So if council is open to that, then I can stay the course on that and we can tackle that conversation at that time.
Thank you for that. Provides me the clarification I was looking for, and the expectation that there'd be something coming probably in the new year relative to that bigger picture concept of facilities.
Our priority right now would be to draft up a new contract with KHC and get them armed and ready to go, so that come the flip of the new year that we can turn to the Amelia-based system for their bookings. So there'll be some time put into that right now. And then, yeah, the larger conversation on facilities and stuff, it's probably a January-ish kind of time frame right now. But noting that it's just with the Civic Center, we have a bylaw that needs to be renewed in terms of the rates and fees. That has to happen before the end of the new year. And then we also need to bring forward another report on your cultural services contract and the renewal of that, which is not tied to the Civic Center, but is a massive Kicking Horse culture component, because that 5-year agreement is ending at the end of this calendar year as well. So facilities, let's pencil in as a January initiative.
Thank you for that. Anyone else speaking to the motion? Seeing, hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much for the report and the
Thank you.
information.
My coffee budget is in the mail.
Okay, council, we'll now go on to bylaws. Number 11A, just get my computer to catch up. There we go. Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. Just some quick background on this item that's been on the council docket a few times, but dating back a few years ago, there's a catastrophic fire that resulted in the courthouse building burning down, and the demolition of also the Ministry of Transportation building, and ultimately the Civic Center being taken over by the courthouse. But back to the Horsefall rezoning application in August. It was presented for first reading to council. Subsequently, there was direction given to relook at short-term rentals on that property and in the C2 zone. Staff in October brought back a bylaw that created a subzone restricting no short-term rentals in that zone. Well, for that specific property, so it's a subzone that so far only one property has that zoning. And as of last Wednesday, the Ministry of Transportation, after a bit of delay due to the labor action, formally endorsed and signed off on the zoning amendment bylaw. So I'm pleased to say that now council can formally consider adopting this bylaw and approving the development variance permit. I welcome any questions.
Thank you for that. Prior to getting the resolution on the floor, any question of clarification, Councilor Grill?
So I've been approached by people in the community to ask if STARS have commented on this.
Mr. Armstrong?
So what we did was we approached the operator of the hospital helipad, and the Interior Health has a consultant that they work with for all their helipads with lots of Transport Canada experience, and they've cited that they don't have any concerns with the proposal. And in fact, I think it was the meeting in mid-September, I shared that with some of the new some of relooking at some of the approaches to the airport. Like the official approach is actually to come in from the north to the airport, but they've cited and with new helicopters that they're looking at too, there will no longer be a need to go out to the airport like there was. So it was really quite a positive phone call I had with the person that's in charge of all the helipads. I think there's, well over a dozen within the Interior Health's network.
Any follow-up, Councilor Grill?
No, I just was, I was told that Stars said that it,
Transport Canada would probably would set the flight paths.
yeah, okay.
Okay. Anything else for clarification? Seeing none, looking for a resolution, Councilor Routley,
Thank you, Worship. Happy to move the recommendation.
Councilor Dale seconding that. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Armstrong, you stated that there was one other property that was zoned with no STRs? Or this would be the first property under a C2R? Thank you.
Yes, Your Worship, R for residential, but
Thank-
but all the other C2 uses are still within the zone, including hotel, but the short-term rental zone has been use has been removed in the subzone.
Thank you for that. Any other comments, questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you for the report. And now on to, if I'm not mistaken, new business. And we have a staff report from Mr. Wilkie, Mr. Denegar, you're gonna speak to the report, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wilkie is busy working on volunteer training night.
So
So
playing with the toys.
playing with the toys in that new pump truck. So
All right.
yeah, this is a pretty straightforward report. It's requesting council's formal authorization of an application to UBCM to continue funding our Fire Smart activities. We are eligible for 2 years of funding, totaling $200,000 per year, so $400,000 total. A little background there in the report of some of the things that have happened so far in 2024 and 25. A lot of community activity, a lot of property assessments, including my own house, and discovered a whole lot of things I didn't even know were wrong with it. So a great program. If you haven't done it yet, get an assessment. So a lot of conversation on staff about the next steps of beefing up that program even more, getting out to the public with education, outreach materials, training and so forth. So should be pretty straightforward as well from a financial perspective, because it is 100% funded if we get the grant awarded to us, which we do expect. The province is very much behind this program. It has great return on investment for the province and for communities. So if there's any questions, happy to answer as best I can.
Thank you for that. Question of clarification prior to getting the resolution? No. Looking to move a resolution, Councilor Guile?
I'd like to move option 1, that council approve the recommendation as presented.
Looking for a seconder, Councilor Manuel. Discussion on the resolution on the floor. Question to yourself under the discussion. It talks about what the fire department would do with the new funding cycle. They speak to developing a SPU, structural protection unit. And I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity. The CSRD has, I believe, 4 SPUs already. One, are those available to the municipality, to our community, to the broader community? And 2, is there an opportunity to partner with them as far as they've already purchased 4? They have some connections, let's say, as opposed to us developing one of our own. They're almost to the point where you can buy them off the shelf, off the rack.
Yeah, my understanding is that there's a close working relationship between our department and the protection services of the regional district. So if they haven't already had this discussion, I'm sure it's on their radar. And yes, there's mutual aid and just a general understanding amongst all fire departments, I think, in the world, that they'll help each other out when they need to with equipment.
Thank you for that.
I do have,
Councilor Guile?
yeah, I just have one question. They completed the community wildfire resiliency plan. They did bring it back to council for us to comment on, but we haven't seen it since, if it had been changed.
Are you able to make any comments, Mr. Dindergart?
I can ask them to bring that back.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And maybe an update after year one would be great.
Yeah.
As far as just reporting.
Yeah, I
And-
have talked to them about doing just a little show for you, show and tell.
Thank you very much. There's nothing else on the resolution. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And now is question period, an opportunity for those in the gallery to ask questions on any of the specific matters up before council today. Any questions? No, thank you for being here and sitting through. There's a bunch of information tonight, wasn't it? Any questions on any of the matters on the agenda today? Okay, thank you for that. With that. With that, we will entertain a motion for recess to close. It actually says adjournment. No question. Oh, sorry, I didn't turn the page. Whew. Okay, I better read this out to be legit. Sorry, my apologies. That the meeting be recessed and that council convenes a meeting close to the public pursuant to section 91C of the community charter for council to deal with matters relating to the following: human resources budget. Moved by Councilor Riley, seconded by Councilor Grill. All those in favor? Opposed? He's quick. Carried unanimously. So we now take a 7-minute bio break and recess into 7. Okay, council, I'm looking for a motion to reconvene the open meeting. Councilor Grill, second by Councilor Riley. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. There are no reports from the closed meeting. Motion for adjournment. Councilor Riley, Councilor Manuel seconding. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Good to